Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. My name is Barbara Creasy. I'm a member of the National Executive Committee of the African National Congress, and I will be your program director this evening. Can I ask you, please, to put your hands together for His Excellency, the President of the Republic of South Africa and of the ruling party, Mr. Cyril Ramaphosa, and Premier David Makhura. Yes, please, President. While you're standing, ladies and gentlemen, can I take this opportunity to ask you to remain standing so that we can play the national anthem. Ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to welcome this evening to our conversations the President of the Republic of South Africa and the President of the ruling party, the African National Congress. Mr. President, you are welcome. I also want to welcome here this evening the Premier of Gauteng and the Chairperson of the African National Congress in Gauteng, Mr. David Makhura. You are welcome, sir. Allow me also to welcome Mr. Jeff Makubo, the Chairperson of the ANC in the city of Johannesburg. Mr. Makubo, welcome. And my colleague and a member of the National Assembly, Mr. Gerard Koenhoff, you are also welcome, sir. But most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, we want to welcome all of you. I know that there are many distinguished people in our audience together this evening, from government, from business, from civil society, so many distinguished people that I'm sure you'll agree, if I start to list them all, I will embarrass myself because I'll forget somebody. So can we thank you deeply and sincerely for joining us this evening, and say that we really appreciate you giving of your important time to join us in this conversation. As we all know, in 34 days, we will be invited once again to put our mark on the ballot paper and choose an organization and a president that we believe offers this country a future and offers a future for each one of us. Now, every election, the commentators tell us this is the most important election. And once again, as we approach the 8th of May, we are told that never before has there been an election as important as this one. So let's agree, the 8th of May is the most important election that we've ever had. And our president has been on the road. He's been visiting communities throughout Gauteng and throughout the country. And he's been interacting with those communities on his vision for our country. And it was important for him, as he tours and visits our country, to come to a place called Sandton, to come to Grayston Drive, and to have this opportunity to interact with all of you. Now, the way in which we run these sessions is that we will ask some of you to raise issues that are dear to your hearts and concerns that you will have. Of course, I am going to ask you for a mandate to be a strict chairperson. I'm sure that some of you would like to get home before midnight. If you give me a mandate, I can get you home before 9 o'clock. So it's really up to you if you give me that mandate to allow people to speak, but not to allow them to give a State of the Nation address. I will do that. But before we get into your contributions, I want to invite Mr. David Makura to say a few welcoming and introductory remarks.
Thank you very much to our program director this evening, Comrade Barbara Creasy. Firstly, I would like to acknowledge His Excellency, the President of our country and the President of our movement, President Cyril Ramaphosa. And I would like you to join me in us giving him a very special welcome to Sandton. President, welcome to Sandton. You just live across the road, but you are in the real Sandton now. I would also like to welcome the ministers who are here. There are a number of ministers and deputy ministers, members of the diplomatic community who have joined us this evening, and leaders of our National Executive Committee of the ANC, leaders of the province and the region, in particular the chairperson of the ANC in Johannesburg. Fellow compatriots, once more this evening, you have a conversation with President Cyril Ramaphosa. We can't dictate the terms of that conversation, but we know that our country, South Africa, is going through many daunting socio-economic challenges that require us to put together our heads and join our hands together as South Africans to address these challenges. So you have an opportunity this evening to raise many issues that worry you, that trouble you, But you also have an opportunity to say to President Ramaphosa that you have a contribution to make in dealing with these challenges. There are many sitting in this room who I have encountered in my other responsibilities, and I have no doubt that many of you are very committed South Africans. You love this country and you want this country to succeed. Am I wrong? Am I wrong that you love this country and you want this country to succeed? And if you were to make a choice between leaving South Africa and making it work, I know that many of you's first choice will be to make South Africa work. So there are indeed many challenges that this evening is about, but every nation faces a moment when there are many challenges and huge challenges. That nation has to choose very, very carefully what caliber of men and women are fit for purpose. Only if it is for that moment. There are leaders all over the world who have arisen. If there were no challenges, they would have not been leaders. They would have not made a mark. They would have not made an impact. And I'm one of those people who believe in our country that these challenges we face are made for the caliber of leadership that President Cyril Ramaphosa is made of. He may have been the leader of our country at any moment, and maybe he would have been an insignificant leader if he was a leader at the time. We didn't face as many challenges as those that keep you awake. The challenges that have brought you here this evening. To leave your homes, to come here and say, we've got something to contribute, something to say, but we also have something to hear what President Ramaphosa. So I have no doubt that this country requires tried and tested leadership at this moment. We are a delicate nation. We are a very delicate nation as a country. I say this all the time. South Africa is a very diverse country in many respects: religious diversity, ethnic diversity, racial diversity. We need delicate hands, tried and tested leadership. And I have no doubt that whatever challenges that we face, President Ramaphosa is made for this moment. Of course, there's no leader that can succeed alone. So if the challenges are made for him, he is also made for these challenges. So this evening, as we will be here, we're going to have an opportunity to interact with a man who has traversed various sectors of our society. As you know, he was a trade union leader, so he knows what are the deep issues that workers are grappling with every day. He was a very key player in negotiating the constitution of our country, in crafting the national development plan of our country. So he knows exactly what the gap is between policy, the constitution, and practice, what we still need to do. But he also cut his teeth in his own right as a businessman. So he knows what the business people amongst you, what worries business people in our country, and the issues of the economy are very close to his heart. And he knows what makes business people invest and not invest. Because we do need investment, because we want an economy that creates jobs, an economy that grows. So he is made for these many difficult challenges that we have. And at this time in our country and in our history, I believe that there is no better leader in our country. just to look up to and support and lend a hand from every sector of our population. There are many leaders, but there's no better leader that is made for this moment than President Cyril Ramaphosa. So thank you very much for honoring us with your presence. You have an opportunity this evening to raise the issues that the president must really take into account when he thinks about how to move our country forward. From where we are in the ANC, we don't take anything for granted. We want every section of our population. If there's one period in our history about an election, I would say, MEC Barbara Creasy, I think this is an election where we must elect a leader. You hear me? No, you don't hear me. I'm saying I think this is an election where we must elect a leader. This is an election where we must elect a leader we will be happy with about where our country must go. A leader after the election, after the 8th of May, who we can say that we can sleep a little bit, not too much. Just sleep a little bit peacefully, knowing our country is in the right hands. And I am saying to you this evening, you can try and keep looking. You must look very hard. You're not going to get a better answer than this one, that President Ramaphosa is best placed to lead our country at this moment. Thank you very much and welcome.
Thank you very much, Premier. I think that we all now have the right mindset for this discussion. I'm going to open the floor, ladies and gentlemen. So with the support of our technical team, I would like to switch to this microphone so that I can move down the aisle. And I want to choose a selection of hands. When I give you a number, please remember that number. And remember, if you're number 7, there's no 7B or 7E. There's just number 7. Okay. Right. I'm taking hands on this side. Number 1, sir. Mike's number 5. Number 1. Number 2. Number 3. Number 4. Number 5. Thank you very much. Right, so we have 15 hands. What I'm going to do is I'm going to set my timer for 3 minutes. So we would want you please just to say your name, and then if you want to make a remark and a question. 3 minutes. Number 1, sir. Are these mics working now?
Yes. Thank you. Mr. President, you face a daunting task in the forthcoming presidency.
My name?
Jose Nascimento, a leader of the HIP Alliance. You face a daunting task in the forthcoming presidency. I have no doubt that the ANC are going to win the forthcoming elections. But I would like to commend you for the embracing attitude that you have in bringing all South Africans into the Rainbow Nation. Just recently, the ANC visited the Chinese community, and the Chinese community warmed up so much with the visit that I invited the Chinese Association to be present tonight, and I see that they gladly exceeded my invitation, and they all here. So thank you very much for embracing the rainbow concept.
Thank you very much. Number 2. There was no question. It's not compulsory to ask a question. You can make a remark. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. I'm Felix Manyanga, a professional mine engineer. Mr. President, I've got 2 questions. The first one is, looking at the mining industry, AMCO is going for its 5th month strike at Sibanye. I want to know at what point are we going to see some government intervention, apart from what we've seen in CCMA, or are we going to wait until something terrible happens? The second question is, Mr. President, thank you for setting all these commissions to find out what has gone wrong in South Africa. But from the information coming out, there's so many people being implicated. My question is, how are we going to deal with this information? Are we going to deal through the formal court, or there will be a special court to address the situation? The last one is, the government said when the ANC came to power, the idea of building a distribution well through BE and tenders. Currently, the root cause of the challenge we're facing is corruption, and tendering is one of the key challenges. My question is, what is the government's future plan in dealing with tenders going forward? And we find out from other countries how have they dealt with this issue of tenders, because currently it's the root cause of corruption. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Question or remark number 3.
Good evening, Mr. President, sir. It's a pleasure to meet you. My name is Fiona Hetman. I am a South African powerlifter, so my question is sports related. I coach and mentor young, black, disenfranchised South Africans, and there has been a phenomenon that actually has shown itself over the last year or 2, and that is that some of these youngsters are reaching the age of 15, 16, and they have no ID numbers. They are orphaned or they have been abandoned, and they are unable to get jobs, they are unable to get driver's licenses, it's really causing a problem, and I'd like to know what I can do with these youngsters. I have one in particular in mind. It's 23, never had an ID number, and it's really ruining his life, and he's a phenomenal youngster. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Number 4.
Good evening, Mr. President. My name is Sandra Chapman, and I'm an importer into this country. Please, can you tell us about a time when your judgment has been tested in a crisis? And what do you want us to appreciate about your judgment?
Thank you. That's a question about leadership. Question number 5.
Good evening, Mr. President. I'm nothing important. I'm just a member of the public, but I am a business owner, and I own the Rosebank Sunday Market. I just want to say about my background that I had 2 parents who were mayors of this wonderful city we're sitting in right now, that's Sandton. Both my father and mother were mayors in their own right, and in fact my mother raised the money to build the Alexander Community Centre, and the maternity clinic in Alexandra. She raised that money and ensured that there was a maternity clinic, which didn't exist before she did that. So I'd like to say that I have been steeped in a spirit of community service. What I'd also like to say is that the Rosebank Sunday Market has 5,000 micro-entrepreneurs on our database. Of the 5,000, 4% manage to continue with their businesses. And there are no resources or facilities out there to help all these micro-enterprises. Every time I listen on the radio to government rhetoric, I hear about all the things that will be opened up to small business and how we have to encourage local production, local entrepreneurs, local businesses. But where are these resources? When we have tried to contact the Department of Trade and Industry, there's very little response. And despite 5 years of effort, I haven't really had any doors open for all these small entrepreneurs that have wonderful products, that have initiative, that have drive, but a great lack of resources. Thank you.
And ma'am, it's a good quiz question, but maybe you can tell us your name.
Donna.
Thank you, Donna.
Well done, brother in Gola.
Question number 6.
In Parliament.
My name is Skalk van Heerden from Beter Einders. Good evening, Mr. President. My question would be, which current Afrikaners would you say are good role models for us youngish boertjies to look up to, as we try and figure out how to be good citizens, and assuming that slanting thrift is not the way?
Thank you very much. Question number 7. Yes? Can we get the mic at the back there?
Good evening, Mr. President. My name is Matlat Mashide, and I'm a young person who is very passionate about, growing our country. And in doing so, I have created a manufacturing company that I've been running for about 4 years. We are in the textile industry. I employ about 40 people, and I find that it's very hard for me to want to continue with my business because there's so many barriers to entry of getting business and even running the factory up until now. My biggest problem is the Bargaining Council, which just makes it very difficult, and I've been looking for help everywhere, and I was wondering, what we could do about that.
Thank you. Question number 8, at the back there.
Thank you. My name is Alf Levine from a company, Township Realtors, the developer of Protea Glen alongside Soweto. I believe that in 30 years we have made a big difference in township development and housing development in this country. And if we can develop, Mr. President, another 100 of Protea Glens, this country will change. We are now planning a huge industrial development there that will create more than 100,000 work opportunities there, and we need the government and Eskom to provide electricity for this. Thank you.
Thank you. Number 9 was also at the back on this side.
Good evening, Mr. President. My name is Clayton Robertson. I'm an owner of a health bread company called Calorie Conscious. My sister and I are here tonight. We specialize in gluten-free and all the health breads. I'm going to cut straight to this. I'm not a big supporter of the ANC. I am not. But somewhere along the way, and a long time ago, I heard Rolf Meyer say something about you. And since that day, there was a feeling of hope that you might be the right person for this job. So there is a hope and a faith in you. Now my question to you is this. I as a white man progressively don't feel very at home in my own country anymore. Progressively there's this feeling that, you know, we are being pushed out, we're not important anymore. So I'm sure, I don't know how many white people sitting in this room, it's gone through our minds many times. Do we just pack up and go find a future for our children and our families? What are you going to do to make us feel part of this community? Because we want to help. You know, we want to be a part of this country. We're born here. So I need an answer from you that's going to make me vote for you. Why I, as a white person, are welcome in this country.
Thank you very much. We're moving over to the other side now. Question number 10, or remark number 10.
Good evening, Honorable President. My name is Phumza Vichima from Eastern Cape. I'm leading the farmers, that is National African Farmers Union in Eastern Cape. We've got more than 5,000 black farmers that are farming in Eastern Cape, and also commercial farmers. We've got plus minus 13,000 fallow land, Honorable President, in Eastern Cape that need to be plowed. In your SONA, you mentioned that agriculture is one of the key economic activities that can eradicate the frontiers of poverty. And also our Honorable MEC in Eastern Cape, Babu Oscar Mabuyane, in his budget speech on the 5th of March, mentioned about agriculture. We bear in mind to you, Honorable President, that we as farmers, we are the most people that nobody can take care of them. As from now, we don't want monies to go back to national because they were unused. That is happening in Eastern Cape. Therefore, we are sending this message. The farmers of Eastern Cape sent me when they saw this poster that we are having this event today, big event, that the MEC that is going to lead the farmers of the Eastern Cape should be the MEC that his heart is close to the farmers, can feel the heartbeat of the farmers. The latter one is that we are inviting you, Honorable President, on behalf of the farmers on the 25th of April, we are having a debate that is going to be in UNIPRA, whereby we want to table what are the effects, what are the economic value chains that we can get through agriculture. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. All the way to Sandton from the Eastern Cape. Can we take number 11, question number 11? Was it you, ma'am?
Good evening, Honorable Mr. President. My name is Guru Keswa. The issue I have to ask you today, Mr. President, is regarding child maintenance issues for the rights of children and women. I'm personally going through a highly prominent maintenance case that's been all over the newspapers. I won't mention any names because I'm not here to name drop. I'm here for a solution. Through this journey, I realized that there are thousands and thousands of women who are going through the same issue of me from all walks of life, all skin colors, where we have difficulties getting maintenance from our spouses, even people who are gone. This is a huge social pandemic as the boy child is now being raised and the girl child alike without a father, and the maintenance system is failing us in the sense that we are going in circles, going to cases, and they're not able to help us. Through my public outreach, I've had opposition parties coming to me saying they have a platform and they have a way to help me. But as a devout, strong ANC woman, you can see I'm wearing it somewhere, I would like to reach out to the ANC to find a way as a young black woman and a voice for all these women struggling with maintenance difficulties on which areas within the ANC, which places I can reach out to, who can help me and give me direction in this cause, the social pandemic of child maintenance issues. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Number 12. Number 12.
Honourable President, thank you so much. Compatriots, thank you so much. The question that I have this evening, I would first like to just brief a little bit. It is regards to human trafficking and child trafficking, and I shall be quoting the amazing Marcel van der Walt, who has just written, thank you so much, sir, the nature of the future of human trafficking in South Africa. I will try and be as brief as possible. This is not an attack at all. The government's continued failure to address the demand for commercial sex and forced labor, and the commitment shrinking universe of choices faced by ordinary South African citizens has seen criminal networks increasingly exploiting the economic principles of supply and demand. The commodification of and trade in human beings have been a critical threat to human and national security and its crippling effect on South Africa's rule of law, democratic aspirations, and the socio-economic well-being of its people has come to fruition. Individual, organization, and society-wide learning, development, and awareness creation about human trafficking and its manifestations as a crime against humanity must be nurtured, and collective compassion and responsibility for the plight of the vulnerable and victimized to be cultivated amongst all spheres of society and government. South Africans are to be reminded that we must take sides. Neutrality helps the oppressor, never the victim. Silence encourages the tormentor, never the tormentor. I would like to just close off with a quote of our most amazing Martin Luther King, and today is his anniversary of his death, where in a real sense all life is interrelated. All men are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of density. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. I can never be what I ought to be until you are what you ought to be. And you can never be what you ought to be until I am what I ought to be. This is the interrelated structure of humanity. So the question is, what is the plan of action on human trafficking, including child trafficking? Though we note we have good policies in place, but we fall down on the plan of action and implementation thereof. I would just like to say,
your time is coming to an end, ma'am.
Kumuntu Gabantu.
Thank you very much. Number 13.
Good evening, Honorable President. Good evening, everyone. My name is Tumelo Makharecha. I'm the son of the African soil, and I'm a youth. I'm aspiring to be a chartered accountant one day. My question to you is, how is the youth of South Africa going to be unified? Because growing up, there was a lot of hope, but over the past 10 years or so, there's been a lot of divisions, and that's been the rhetoric around the country. And my biggest concern is about preschool education. because it seems like, I don't know what the government is doing to actually liberate and educate people in preschools, because they are our first call of our future. So Mr. President, my question is, what are we going to do to make sure that everyone knows that South Africa is their home, that everyone can come together, but most importantly, how do we safeguard our future? Because the way things are going, the people coming after us, there won't be much left for them. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Number 14.
Good evening. My name is Erika Kempken and I'm here from Youth at Work. Good evening, President, and thank you for the opportunity. I'm here with a delegation of YES. Youth at Work is a formal YES implementation partner, and also Symphonia, who you wrote a letter to in honor of their work as an NGO. We really want to applaud you and thank you for the initiative, and want to take the opportunity to ask you to really bring us in the forefront of business. We are ready to serve. We have had amazing cases of youth doing wonderful work in community, in schools, in agriculture projects, in ECD centres. Allow business to open their coffers of funding towards us, because we are ready to deliver the workplace youth places. We also ask that you put us closer in touch with the Department of Education. Many of our youth are working at local schools, and together with the youth gaining the workplace experience at the local schools, we are forming and we are really getting educational functional. So we are a team of very involved, active citizens who are ready to serve and welcome the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes. There's 14B, yes. But I know that 14B had their hand up, so I clearly, either I can't count, which is possible.
Thanks, Barbara. Cyril, I'm a doctor, born in Benoni. I'm 10th generation South African, and you'll be pleased to hear that I feel at home. I had the privilege of working overseas for about 7 years in the UK, and realized then that not all countries have got problems, and the Brexit vote in the UK didn't surprise me, in fact, because I lived in a county called Essex, and they hated everyone, including the Scots, the Welsh, and the Irish. What got me back here is, apart from the fact that I paid a lot more tax in the UK, is that, and I hope you're registering that, I missed my family, I missed South Africa, and it's great to be back. I've been back 7 years, but one of the things is that your predecessor, the unmentionable Jacob Zuma, actually took on the baddies in the ANC, including Julius Malema. And he had the courage to get rid of him. I'm been involved in progressive politics since the 80s. I was a member of NUSAS and the UDF. And the list, as I'm sure you will acknowledge, disturbs Democrats and patriots. And equally, we don't know what to do, because unlike other organizations, there are 800,000 members who vote for people, warts and all. And this is what keeps this country together, an organization of that size. We need it. What are we going to do about the fact that, like America and Trump, like Britain and Brexit, we throw up bad results with elections in the ANC? And how do we deal with this problem of imperfection that is a burden, a huge emotional burden on us as South Africans? As it knows, and I speak here amongst friends. I think everyone shares this feeling, and we just don't know the answer, so we're looking for some leadership on this one.
Thank you very much. Last question, number 15. Could you say your name, please, sir?
Thanks, Comrade Barbara. It's Alex Mitstakowski. It's such a pleasure to be here today. It was very difficult for me to try and think of one question, so I'm going to try and give a three-pronged question, if that's okay, sir. I'm first generation, so my parents are German. So I've been born and bred in Durban, moved up to Johannesburg, worked as a journalist. I've been in business, the whole shebang. But my thing is, could you please address foreign investment? I know that's something that you've been working on. Xenophobia. My new boss is Zimbabwean, and she actually said to me that she is scared of South Africa at the moment. She wants to go back to Zimbabwe because of what's been happening, also what you said. And then lastly, crime. Please, sir, I mean, if we could try and tell us if there's some sort of active, concerted way to deal with that, we really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm sure you'll agree, ladies and gentlemen, even if we didn't take all the hands, I think that we've got a good spread of issues here that talk to some of the key issues that would be of concern to all of us. On that note, I'm going to invite President Ramaphosa to respond.
Thank you. Let's be seated, please. Thank you. It's wonderful to see so many of you here. Many who I've come to know for many, many years. Some I've had the privilege of being able to work with in one way, shape, or form or another. It's wonderful to have all of you here as I extend my recognition to the leadership of the ANC, both at national, provincial, and at regional level. I'd like to thank the regional leadership working together with other colleagues for having had the foresight to arrange this dialogue. This is the format of the dialogues that we've been having with a number of our people across the length and the breadth of the country. And I have found that it works well because people get an opportunity to raise issues that are of concern to them. And we also get an opportunity to respond to those issues as well as to raise a whole number of other issues as well. This dialogue is taking place, obviously, just a few days well, not yet a few days, some 30 days and some few days before our national elections, which, Chair, as you say, are dubbed as the most significant, the most decisive, the most whatever elections our country has ever had. And all that is true in one way or another, but they are just elections once again, where we have an opportunity as South Africans, in fact for the sixth time, to have this great moment of democratic participation where we go and elect the government that should govern our country and where our people are given choice. And this time round, we're going to be spoiled for choice. There are going to be 48 parties contesting for your election, for your vote, and that's historic in our country that so many now want to win your vote. But clearly you are going to have to choose very carefully and choose the one that will be able to have a steady hand on the steering wheel of our country as we go forward. We're going through a period of what I call renewal. Renewal in our country in a number of ways, but at the same time, we also have a number of challenges. And the challenges are facing us in our face, and we've got to deal with them. But we're not the only country in the world that is facing challenges and problems. We're by no means the only country. Many other countries are facing their own challenges. And if you look at what would be called more developed sort of economies or democracies, they are also facing their own. You look at what's happening in the UK, and you look at what's been happening in Europe when they were facing the migration challenge. Look at what's happening in the US, and a lot of issues are just coming to the fore and need to be addressed. And the world economy is not looking so bright as we are grappling with the growth of our own economy. So there are a lot of issues out there, but at the same time, in the little corner that we occupy, in the southern tip of Africa, we've had a number of years where things did not go as correctly and as well as they should have. But now we face the great prospect of renewal, of remaking ourselves, and also refashioning our country into the type of country that we want to have. One of you mentioned and paid tribute or expressed some gratitude for us having appointed all these many commissions that are fathoming the truth out, commissions that are presenting us with what I would say a cathartic moment. But out of a cathartic moment comes what I term redemption, where we are able to say, yes, this is what we've been about, but we have an alternative, and a much better alternative of taking us forward. When I was elected president of the ANC, I was given 3 mandates, key mandates, and the others are sub-mandates and all that. But the 3 key mandates was go out and unite the African National Congress, because there was a sense that we were disunited. And since I was elected, we've been seeking to forge unity. And unity is not a one-day event, it's a process. It's a process. Sometimes you have reversals, 5 steps backwards and 2 forward. But as long as you keep moving forward and remain focused on uniting the organization, that's the best way to go forward. The other one was to renew the ANC. Renew the ANC and make the ANC go back to its original principles, its value system, and revamp it completely in all manner of ways, and represent a newly repackaged, renewed ANC to the South African public. And the conference felt so because it recognized and continues to do so the important role that the ANC plays in the life of our country, and the important life it has played for, if you like, 82 plus 25 is what, Barbara? It's 107. Yes, it's 107. It was formed in 1912. In 1912, it sought to change the direction that South Africa was committed to, a direction of division, where we were a divided nation, where we were a nation that was based on exploitation, of dispossession, a nation where we were just desperate people all around. The ANC was formed to unite South Africa and South Africans, to forge a nation out of the diverse groupings that made up the country that we all live in today. It took the ANC 82 years to 1994 to realize that objective, and to finally convince all and sundry that what we should all be about as South Africa is to be a united nation where there would be democracy, because prior to that there was no democracy, where there would be non-racialism, because prior to that race was the calling card that people held up, because race was accentuated, and the ANC felt that non-racialism de-emphasize race but deal with the consequences of race, where there would be no sexist type of prejudice and bigotry, so that we have a non-sexist society. but also build a prosperous society out of all this. So that was the mission of the ANC, the strategic objective. 82 years later, that was achieved in large measure. Not completely, because the process of democratizing our country had to play itself out in terms of our new constitution. Non-racialism is still playing itself out, because we still need to close the fault lines that racism has bequeathed our country, and non-sexism. We still need to get rid of patriarchy in our body politic as a people. So 25 years after that 82 years, which brings us to 107, the conference said, ANC, you've led society throughout, but along the way, you lost your way. We want you as conference, as the ANC, to regain your way, to go back to your values. That is the mandate I was given. Go out and renew the African National Congress. In addition, I was given another mandate, and the mandate was go and build a social compact amongst all South Africans. Get all South Africans to work together, to rebuild this country, to build it into a country that we would all be proud of. So those were the key 3 mandates that I was given. But in relation to uniting the ANC, it was much more than uniting the ANC, it was unite South Africa. Unite South Africa and unite all South Africans, and continue forging the South Africans that live in this country into one nation. Madiba sought to unite us, and he did a fantastic job, and came up with a concept with Archbishop Tutu, the Rainbow Nation, and that in itself was a noble and continues to be a noble objective. So uniting South Africans into one nation, diverse as we are, speaking different languages, different pigmentations and all that, is a strategic objective that I have. And the second one is to renew South Africa. Not only to renew the ANC, but to renew South Africa and to remake us as a country and deal with some of the key challenges that we face. So against all these 3 key objectives, I'm now able to face and to address the key challenges that our country faces. And I'm determined that we shall succeed in all this. Working together, we should succeed. That is why at the first State of the Nation address, I called on all South Africans and I said, I want to be the first to be sent. Send me. And many South Africans embraced this concept. And wherever I went, whether walking on in the streets of our country or near the beach or whatever, I met South Africans of all colors who kept on saying, Mr. President, send me. We are ready to be sent. And I just started experiencing this wonderful and great feeling of South Africanness by South Africans. People who felt proud once again to be South Africans. And that is the mood that has continued to engulf our people, much as we have had reversals or near reversals when the economy went in technical recession. People started losing hope. When the petrol price went up, people started losing hope. And now with the load shedding, people are beginning to lose hope. And I am saying, let's focus on our key objective. Let's focus on the goal. And the goal is to get all of us to be united as a nation and to make South Africa, and make South Africa work and make South Africa succeed. Because we are a great nation and we can look at our past. Our past, as you look at it, many people never thought that we would ever emerge into what we are today. Many people thought that the apartheid problem was an intractable one. And they felt that it's all going to go up in smoke. We're going to have a civil war where we're going to slaughter each other. And we confounded them. We proved to them that they were wrong. I mean, people as far as afield as New York, Washington, London, they thought we had a lost cause and a lost case. We confounded them and we were able to resolve our challenges. That moment is upon us once again as South Africans to try and forge a new resolve, a new vision that we can all buy into. The National Development Plan actually details more clearly, if all of us care to read it, more clearly what the visionary forward march should be for all of us. And that is what should be focused on to take South Africa forward. So I stand before you, yes, seeking to answer all your questions, but at the same time, I want you to realize that at this moment that we are in now, there's a lot of hope that is abroad amongst our people, both in the townships, both in the rural areas, and both in the big cities. Many people are hopeful for a bright new future, even as we have the challenges that we face. Many South Africans are feeling that now, more than before, we now have a great chance to actually address the challenges that we face. And I am here as your president to lead that charge. I am here to say, let us march forward together. Let us not tarry. Let us not move sideways. We should go forward because the goal that we want to achieve, we can see it, it may still be far, but we can see it, and if we work together as a united nation, as a people who are convinced about the renewal process, the journey that we have embarked upon, and I will unpack a little bit of that in a little while. And if we can do that, knowing that the only way we can move forward is to have a social compact, forge a unity of purpose amongst all of us in everything that we do and in everything that we can seek to address. Jose Nascimento says, it's wonderful that we are bringing all people together, and I'm glad, Jose, that you've also invited, after we had this HIP Alliance meeting, the Hellenic, Italian, and Portuguese communities. They invited me to a most wonderful occasion where we also went to the Greek Orthodox Church and saw the beauty of the diversity of our religious beliefs, and where we had an opportunity to converse with people of Hellenic, Italian, and Portuguese origin, and the Lebanese were also there. I'm glad, Jose, that today you've also invited a Chinese compatriot of ours, because South Africa belongs to all of us. All people who live in South Africa are welcome, and this was crafted by our forebears against great opposition to the then rulers, because the then rulers of our country had wanted to balkanize South Africa and divide it into little enclaves of tribes and races and language groups and all that. And our forebears who drafted the Freedom Charter said, no, South Africa belongs to all who live in it. Everyone who lives here, South Africa belongs to all of us. And that really was the genesis of the Rainbow Nation concept, because I often say that there's just no country like ours. The other day, I was commenting as we were sitting with Xi Jinping of China. The president of China was saying, we had just gone through the singing of the national anthem, and he was a bit perplexed because our anthem is a little longer than most anthems in the world. And I said to him, the reason is this is a product of who we are, because there's no anthem that I know of that is made up of 4 languages. No, and when you see as we sing the national anthem, the sign language interpreter standing near me quite often and also trying to interpret the anthem. So it's 5 languages. There's no anthem like that in the whole world. And this is who we are, and we should be proud about the makeup that makes us what we are. And we are a welcoming country. We are an open society, and we were made open by our constitution. Our constitutional construct was such that we all decided that we want to be an open society. We want to be a society that is going to embrace all our people. So thank you very much, Jose, for bringing our Chinese compatriots here. Felix says that AMCU is now going to its fifth month rather. I thought it would even be the 6th month. And they've been on a long strike. And this is a conflict. This is a dispute rather, more a dispute than a conflict between employer and employees. And with that one in the mining industry with Sebanye, there are other unions who have signed up for an agreement, and the one union is reluctant, refusing to sign up, so they are holding out. And we have said through our Minister of Labor, Minister of Mineral Resources, that we are ready, willing to lend support to the resolution of this dispute. That through our laws, CCMA laws or procedures, we are saying we want that dispute to be resolved within the parameters of the framework of the laws that we've got. Government should never be seen to be dictating to either the union or the employer. We have set up the framework. We must now get them to work within that framework. I believe the strike will be resolved because the strike is having a huge, huge impact, a negative impact on the workers themselves. Continuing to hold out is not going to be to the benefit of the workers, nor will it be to the benefit of the company. So we continue to urge the parties themselves to find solutions, to find a way in which they can resolve this. And we stand ready to be of assistance at any time. What we are seeking to avoid is a descent to violence, is a descent to mayhem, and we stand ready to prevent that type of violence or mayhem. And Felix continues and saying, thank you for setting up all the commissions. How are we going to deal with the information that is coming out of these commissions? The commissions had to be set up because we are dealing here, state capture debacle and problem has been an overarching one. It has actually gripped not only the nation, but a whole number of institutions in our country, be they business institutions, be they government, be they social institutions, and also individuals. So we've had to have a process through which we can deal with this. We are not a dictatorship. The President of the Republic of South Africa does not wake up one morning and say, I am going to banish so-and-so to jail, I am going to do this and this to this one, and I'm going to sentence him for 20 years, 25 years. We don't function like that. We function in terms of the rule of law. The reason why we are said to have the best constitution in the world, and let me digress for a minute, it was a real joy for me to meet one of the justices of the High Court of the United States who whispered to me and said, you have the best constitution in the world, Mr. President. We always refer to your constitution in our own jurisprudence. And so armed with this constitution, by the way, which entitles and enables anyone, even if you are a citizen, to be able to take on anyone, including the government. And when people take on the government, they always hope to win. And quite often they win. That is the type of constitutional construct or architecture that we have. So we have to work within the parameters of our Constitution. We are governed by the rule of law. So even as we set up commissions of inquiry, what we are seeking to do with them is to say, it looks like this is a messy, messy situation. We cannot just go barging in. We need to find out what the truth is. And I've set up quite a number, and these commissions are paying great dividends. They are of great help because, for instance, the Zondo Commission is enabling us as a nation, however painful it is enabling us as a nation to see what really has gone wrong in our country, in various institutions, and also is giving us the opportunity to make sure that we correct everything that went wrong and say to ourselves, never and never and never and never again shall South Africa go through this. That's what we are saying. For me, that is the real value of these commissions. And what are we going to do with the findings? The findings are coming out. The evidence is coming out. The truth is coming out. It's a cathartic moment. And the findings will be issued once the report comes out. But in the course of this whole process, there are certain things that are coming out that are actionable. That can be acted upon. Where wrong has been done, it must be acted against. Now, it is to this end that I authorize, I appointed the NDPP, National Directorate of Public Prosecutions. I appointed a person that I believe the nation can trust to be able to navigate us through all these things that have been done wrong, by coming up with prosecutions so that those who have done things wrongly must be prosecuted and they must be accountable for what they have done. And if there needs to be jail time, there must be jail time, because that is what... So in my book, accountability is at a great premium. We must be accountable for what we have done. And this is not going to be done on the basis of pursuing people because I don't like them or we don't like them. It must be without any fear, without any bias, without any prejudice. Those who have done wrong things against the state and the people of South Africa must be man and woman enough to be accountable and go and answer for themselves. So I authorize that the NDPP, on their proposal, and the Minister of Justice, who's also here, that we should appoint a special directorate that is going to focus more closely on certain priority wrongdoing, actions, or crimes. So that we set up within 6 weeks. It's now been set up, and it is going to work. It is going to work, and it's almost ready to start rolling. So when the findings come out, yes, they will be referred to those agencies that will then start taking action. And that is what we are going to do in terms of dealing with all these commissions. And we've set up a number of them. I mean, we set up one for SARS. The SARS Commission was of great help to the nation because it got us to have an insight in how wrong things were done in SARS. And we've just appointed a new head of SARS who I believe will be able to execute his work and his tasks properly. And now we're going through another one which has to deal with the PIC, which is the asset manager, if you like, of civil servants in our country. So we will continue doing all these things to be able to get down to the truth, but all of this will be done in terms of the rule of law. I want to assure you that my administration is irrevocably committed to fighting corruption. corruption will be fought. And it will be fought without any favor, without any fear, and without any prejudice. And whoever it might be, we will fight corruption. And I have seen how other countries that have sought to move ahead. In China, they've started doing that, and other countries as well, like Brazil and others. They have done it without fearing and without any form of prejudice. We need to root out corruption from the face of South Africa. We need to do that. My brother Felix says, what are we going to do with the tender system? Yes, it is the tender system that has led us in large measure to where we are. We're looking very closely at it. We've got a number of options of how best we can deal with the tender system with a view of eradicating corruption. The Gauteng government has almost taken the lead in this. What they do, their tendering system now is now open, completely open. Everybody knows that there is this tender and the tendering is open and it's driven through a computer process. And in the private sector, I saw how that works. It works beautifully. You rid corruption out of the system, but you also reduce your costs. So we're going to be looking very closely at what they're doing and what other countries are doing, and we will come up with a solution that will rid our country of the corrupt activities. Fiona, didn't get your surname. I just heard you say powerlifting. You're a powerlifting lady. Many South Africans have no IDs. Now, this troubles me. This troubles me a great deal, but there has to be a solution, and there is a solution. Those who do not have IDs should have easy access to Home Affairs. We need to go through their own personal profiles and dig into why they don't have IDs, where were they born, and we can get all manner of statements, affidavits, and we can get a whole contextual case built around them as to confirm their profile, their identity, and our system should then allow that they should get IDs, because South Africa belongs to all of us, and we are never going to leave anyone behind or never should throw anyone away. So those young people that you work with, I mean, I would say should be approaching our Home Affairs office, and you can even go via my office. There'll be somebody in our office who can also assist you with that. And may I actually say, and you know, I'm a very good delegator, very good at that. The Premier's office will be able to help us with that. So that's sorted. Chapman says, tell us what your judgment has been, when your judgment has been tested, and what did you do? What a question. Wow. What do you want to know? There is something that you really want to know. Well, you know, we work as a collective. We work as a collective in government and in the ANC. And as we work as a collective, we always seek to build consensus. And decisions must always be underpinned by consensus. You know, even at the cabinet level, you will never hear dissension from cabinet, because cabinet, once a decision is taken, we are all bound by that decision. But since you are so inquisitive, you want to know when was my judgment once tested. I can tell you, because it's a matter of public record. When President Zuma decided to remove Pravin Gordhan as the Minister of Finance, and remember, Pravin Gordhan had been brought back after Des van Rooyen. After Nene was fired and Des van Rooyen was brought in, and there was huge, you know, dissension around that. Pravin Gordhan was brought in. He was doing a fantastic job, and he was in London on a roadshow after the budget or something like that. And it was then said that he should be removed. And it's public record that he was being removed on the basis of an intelligence report, which in my view, did not really add too much. And I then remembered in my own situation when I was Secretary General. No, I was no longer Secretary General, when some intelligence report said I was plotting to depose Thabo Mbeki's government. I remembered that, and that really troubled me, because here was a person, that report was false, and here was another occasion when another report, which I believed was false, was being used to remove Pravin Gordhan. The decision that I then had to make was whether do I keep quiet about something that I truly believed was incorrect, and then I broke ranks. I broke ranks with my president, and I spoke out. So that was a difficult decision, because doing so could have meant that I could have been fired myself. Fortunately, I was not fired. And as it turned out, the then Secretary General and the then Treasurer General also spoke out against the firing of Nhlanhla Nene. But no, not Nhlanhla, Pravin Gordhan. But that is now history behind us. So that was when my judgment was tested. I'm just giving you one snippet. I hope you are not so inquisitive as to want to know more, because there have been a number of cases where one's judgment was tested quite severely. And one hopes that in the coming period, as we move forward, people's judgment will not be so tested, because we will all be seeking to do what is right by the people of South Africa. Donna, who comes from the Rosebank Sunday Market, I must say, Donna, I love your market. When I was a free man, I used to go to that market, and I used to marvel at the type of displays that many of the people who come to sell there always had. And I'm impressed to hear that you've had 5,000 entrepreneurs, but only a few of them ever really get ahead, because the many others don't seem to have support, they don't get the help. And what I can say is, in seeking to grow our economy, in seeking to grow this economy, I am convinced, I'm hugely convinced that we need to promote and grow and develop our entrepreneurs. It is the small and medium entrepreneurs who create the most jobs. And it was wonderful to hear my sister, was it Mahlatsi Mashile, a young person who already has a factory, who employs 40 people, and I'll deal with your issue in a minute. But it is because entrepreneurs are agile, they are nimble, they are able to see value, and they are able to create value. And so therefore, we need to support them. It is for this reason that if you paid attention to the economic recovery and stimulus package that we announced, we also focus on small and medium enterprises. We said that we want, one, to focus on township economies and rural economies. And for the most part, the township economies are replete with small and medium enterprise entities, and those are the ones that we want to promote. And I have directed the Minister of Small Business to create incubation centers. And I want incubation centers to be created throughout the country to help entrepreneurs, budding entrepreneurs, with skills, with knowledge, with assistance, and a whole range of things, including market access, as well as finance of some sort, or to lead them to places where they will get finance. But at the same time, to address Mahlatsi's challenge, which is remove the barriers. We've got too many barriers. And Mahlatsi, we want to talk to you. We want to fully understand what those barriers are. Today you mentioned one, you say it's the bargaining council. Bargaining council, yes, can be a huge problem for small and medium enterprises. We need to sit down and discuss it, because there can be possibly a number of solutions that we can come up with. But there are more barriers. According to me, we should remove all barriers. We should free our entrepreneurs. We should free our small and medium enterprises. Let them operate and let them grow. And sometimes we set up really funny and strange rules and regulations and all that. And we set them up at all levels. I live in Hyde Park. Once I was elected deputy president, yes. I sought, because they think everybody's trying to kill me, so they impose a number of people who go around with me. So these people travel in many cars, which I don't like, and they block traffic and all that. But that I will deal with. I will deal with in time. But my wife and I wanted to, we've got a guardhouse. We wanted to build an extra room so that when they come, because most of them live in Pretoria and in Mamelodi, in Soshanguve, when they come to pick me up to go to a cabinet meeting, I have to leave home at 7:30 to be there at 8:30. They have to wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning, collect each other, drive to Joburg in the traffic, come and pick me up. So we said, let's set up a little room where they can come in the morning, have a coffee, because they will have left their homes without having had a coffee and a sandwich. So we said, great stuff. We went to the Johannesburg municipal office. Oh, I tell you. I tell you. And all we wanted was our plan, just to do the extension. The architect drew the plan, we submitted. You will not believe it. You will not believe it. We've waited for 3 years just to have an extension of a room, 4 meters by 2 meters. 3 years we waited. And we finally got it. And my poor wife had to do reams and reams of documents. They wanted this and that. So those are the barriers. Those are that actually just discourages you. Business people will get discouraged and say, it's no use. Now, that is what I want to eliminate. We do not need, barriers like that. We need to free our economy, free our entrepreneurs, and lessen the burden of bureaucracy in everything we do, because in the end it amounts to nothing really. That's what I would like. So Mahlatsi, I would like to hear more from you, as I would from Donna, about all these things that can be done. And I'd like you to interface, yes, with our Ministry of Small Medium Enterprises, but also through the various business organizations that we collaborate with. Because I'm really focused in saying, tell us what the barriers are. Let's remove them. And let me immediately quickly digress about something that may be of interest to you. As we were building this social compact that I was charged to focus on by the conference of the ANC in 2017 in Nasrec, we said, we will only be able to build this compact if we are going to address the concerns of business, the concerns of labor, the concerns of community-based organizations, and the concerns of various people. Then we started interacting with business people, and they said, you've got too many barriers, you've got too many things that you still need to reform. They said the visa problem is a major problem for all of us. People want to come to South Africa, they cannot come. We've made a huge attempt to try and address this issue. We still have some way to go. The broadband spectrum also needed to be addressed, and they raised a whole number of issues. So what we've been seeking to do is to make South Africa much more investor-friendly, to be able to attract investments to come to South Africa by embarking on reforms. Even in the 6th administration, we are going to continue focusing on those reforms because our remit is to grow the economy of our country. My remit is to raise the $100 billion, 1.4 trillion rand in the next 5 years for investments that come. Last year, we were able to raise 290 billion of committed money that will come into our factories, into our mines and all that. This year, I want to raise even much more money that will come to be invested here to create jobs. Yeah? So, Skalk says, which Afrikaners are really good role models? Wow, what a question. Let me say our country is replete with a number of really good-hearted people of all, if you like, races. We have a huge battery or a reservoir of really good people. And I can look around and I'll find there are Afrikaners, there are Jewish people, there are English speakers, there are, people from our own small little tribe, vendors, there are, Zulu people and all that. We are a wonderful mosaic of all the wonderful things that any country would wish to have. And by the way, apart from being the most beautiful country in the world, we are the most diverse and the most outstanding country of all countries. You ask me, I know. So, there are a number of Afrikaners who I get along with, who have their heart here. And once apartheid had fallen, I found that quite a number of them embraced the new order. They wanted to be part of the progress that we should make in our country. And even now, they are standing to be tumad, the tumamina type of process. They say, send us. We are ready to be sent. We want to work with our countrymen and women and share the skills that we have. And some are even coming forward and say, we are even willing to share this issue that has really been a major pain to many black South Africans. We're even prepared to share land. We're even prepared to say, let us share the land, because they get the message from the Freedom Charter. The land shall be shared amongst all those who work it. So there are many Afrikaners who I have found to be really outstanding. I happened to work with one for a good number of years to craft our constitution together with many others, and Ruth Meyer. He continues to do really good work, and he's become a great ambassador of our country because he goes around the world, tries to resolve conflicts that occur in various parts of the world. 1 minute is in Myanmar, next minute is in Madagascar, next minute is in Colombia, next minute is in this and that country, working together with some ANC comrades. So those are some of the wonderful things that this new period that we are in as a country has yielded for all of us. Alf Levine says, he has made a difference by developing Protea gland. And if we could develop 100 more of Protea glands, our country would take off. I couldn't agree with you more. I have some relatives who stay in Protea gland. It's a fantastic development. The Premier was telling me that they work with you extremely well in a number of ways. And I wish you strength and a good head as you continue to do all these. And yes, we need to develop 100 more. But we also need ESCOM to come to the party. Now, ESCOM is our current headache. It's our current headache. Each time I wake up in the morning, I get an SMS from the Minister of Public Enterprises to tell me what the grid is looking like. He gets the information, he beams it to me. When I see, all the stations green, and some red, I am relaxed. And when we have a bit of a surplus and all that. Now, I'm not going to go into what he explained yesterday, because they went to some great length to explain the status of the grid, and they explained that they are resolving some of the problems that we have had. Now, you may ask, we went through a terrible few days, almost a week, where we had stage 4 load shedding. And that was like a combination of all types of factors that gave rise to the perfect storm. With a cyclone in Mozambique, with some of our boilers just failing on us because we didn't have the detection system. It was a perfect storm that just descended on us. And then we were running out of water in some of the power stations that are hydro-driven, and the water levels were low. The diesel had also run out, so it was a combination of all manner of problems. But we immediately, in the true Tumamina spirit, the minister immediately got a great deal of assistance from the engineering society or association. We sent engineers to all our power stations, and some of them are still there looking very closely at how we can address this challenge. And I'd like to reiterate what he said yesterday, that we're going to be focusing on not having more than stage 1 load shedding, and making sure that in the winter months we're able to have sufficient energy. Now, Eskom holds our livelihoods in its hands, all of us as South Africans. And the proposal that we put forward during SONA was that let's restructure Eskom so that we are not susceptible to the type of risk that we are susceptible to, where just one entity, we all have our eggs in one entity, and we said let's restructure it and have 3 divisions of the business focused on what they should do. Distribution should work on distribution, cooperating with municipalities, and transmission should obviously be the grid that we focus on. There should be one grid company. And then generation, there will be a number of other people who generate, including independent power producers, and including other companies who feel that they are too susceptible to the risk of Eskom. They want to start generating. So we need to restructure Eskom. And I think we are onto a good thing. But the biggest challenge is the finances. Eskom is the only company that I know in the country that has worked up a debt of 430 billion rand. It's a huge debt. We need to address it. And we are trying to work on a number of ways to address this challenge. But I can assure you that we are putting everything we have in place to address this, and also to avoid the load shedding that we went through. And maybe that was somehow a baptism of fire that we went through, where we had stage 4 load shedding. And we now know that that is bad for the economy. Of course, we should have known, bad for our livelihoods, and that we should never go there again. So I would like to be in a situation where stage 4 load shedding never, ever, ever happens again to South Africans. Now, I did not get your name, but I've just written here, Mr. Gluten-Free and Health Breads. I'm sorry I didn't catch your name because you were talking too quickly. And you were saying, as a white person, you don't feel progressively free in our country. I have understanding for that, and I'm rather sad and sorry that you feel like that, because this is the best country in the world. South Africa is the best country, my dearest brother. So do not leave this country. It is the best place to be for all of us. And I would like to say to you, we have, and we continue to seek to make South Africa a home for all of us, where we can live freely, where we can live together, And you just need to look back a little bit, back into our history, where this South Africa was a country that was made so uncomfortable for the majority of South Africans, where they were made to feel not at home in the country of their own birth. For a whole number of things were done to them. The dispossession, the oppression, the laws that were put in place, the restrictions that were put in place for the majority of the population not to be able to move ahead in jobs, in business, in professions, you name it. If you just look back a little bit and see how ugly this country was. But that majority said, we are going to reshape this country. We are going to remake it, and we are going to make it in the image of what our forebears tried to construct in 1912 when they formed the ANC. And as I was saying earlier, yes, 82 years later, they succeeded. And in the past 25 years, we've been seeking and forging a unity of purpose amongst all South Africans, trying to get all South Africans to feel free. In some cases, we've made mistakes. Let me be upfront and admit that. In some of the things that we have done, said, policies we have adopted, but at the same time, I would say the glass is not empty, the glass is not half empty, and this glass is half full. And all we need to do, all of us, including you, I wish I had caught your name, Mr. Gluten-Free, including you, I just want us to work together to fill this glass. This glass is waiting to be filled by all of us. And that is why the Tumamina concept has such a lot of resonance, that we cannot run away. We cannot run away from this country. This is the best country that we could all ever have. Let me immediately also tell you, my dearest brother, I have opportunity to travel around the world. That's my job. And sometimes I don't particularly like it because you're hopping from bed to bed. That's why I travel with my blanket, as it was revealed by my staff the other time. Other heads of state travel with their beds. I don't travel with my bed. So as I go around the world, I find that the world, you may sit here and think that there are too many problems here, it's better out there. Many countries are going through their own enormous challenges, huge problems. You'll run away from this country and come out of the frying pan, which is cooling off quite a lot, into the fire, going to another country. So I would say, all we should do is to make this country the country of our dreams. We have that opportunity, and I think that's what we should focus on. What can I say to make you vote for me? All I would say is that South Africa, we are committed to making South Africa a country that is free and open and welcoming to all. And everyone, black and white, men and women, young and old, we all have a space in South Africa to make a better life. Challenges that we have, I believe, are resolvable. That's why we have the National Development Plan, which charts forward a clear vision of where we should go. We're saying by 2030, we want to have reduced inequality, we want to have reduced unemployment. We may not make 2030, but I can promise you, with the right steps that we are now going to take from now on, moving forward, including dealing with the demon of racism, including addressing inequality, including addressing poverty, we will be able to succeed because we are resilient people. We defeated the demon of apartheid. And these are the challenges that we face, in my view, are resolvable. We resolved the most dangerous one, which could have annihilated our futures in many ways, where we could have been at each other's throats. Now, what this moment requires is for you to work with me to realize this South Africa of your dreams and our dreams collectively. My sister Phumeza Vichima is a farmer. Phumeza, I'm also a farmer. I can promise you that if I was not doing what I'm doing, you would find me on the farm, heading cattle and looking after cattle. But I am here now. You say you've got 13,000 hectares of land, or so you said, and I did mention in the State of the Nation address, including in the stimulus package that we announced, the importance of agriculture. I still reiterate that, because agriculture, as the NDP says, gives us a great opportunity to create jobs. The NDP says we can create up to 1 million more jobs or new jobs by 2030. I believe we can do much better. And all we need to do is to free the capacity of the land in our country, to build capabilities, as the NDP says, amongst our people, so that we can get everyone involved and engaged in agriculture. There's nothing as wonderful and as beautiful as people working the land and people being involved in food production, and that is why we want farmers to succeed, crop farmers, fruit farmers, livestock farmers. We want them all to succeed, and we stand ready to give them as much assistance and support as we possibly can. You want the next MEC in the Eastern Cape to have the interests of farmers at heart. Okay, we can work on that. We can make sure that we have the right MEC. You are inviting me on the 25th. Here is Phumeza. She wants to have a date with me on the 25th. Phumeza, maybe you and I should talk face to face. Let's talk about that date, the 25th of April. I'm happy to come, but I'll have to see what my program looks like. So farming and farmers are very close to my heart, and I'd like us to focus on agriculture. And fortunately, we have put a lot of things in place to focus on it. Ukuku Kesa speaks about the maintenance system that's failing. Yes, this is a very sore point, because as far as I'm concerned, it's totally unacceptable for men to abandon their children and not look after them and not even maintain them. That I agree with. I cannot begin to countenance men who father children and then just walk away from them. That, to me, it causes me great injury in my conception of what a responsible man should be doing in terms of looking after their children, even if they've separated from their wives. But the children are the greatest gift that God gives us, and as men, we need to play our part in bringing them up. And it is true, Gugu is absolutely right. We've got a lot of families in our country that are headed by women with absent fathers. And we know what damage this causes or imposes on children. Children who grow up without the presence and the participation of their fathers in their upbringing are truly disadvantaged. So Gugu, I have a lot of great feeling about this matter. And the Minister of Justice is here, who oversees our justice system. We are the best party that you can talk to, as you know, which can look at how we can make the maintenance system not to fail. In this regard, I have a premier, who I may not name now, who is very strong on the responsibility that men should have for their children. And I support her completely. And she's not in my party, but I support her because she has a very strong message, like you, Gugu, and you can count me as being part of the advocates who will be on your side to advocate this type of change system. So let us talk and change the system and make the fathers to be more responsible. And if need be, they should face up and be accountable and face the consequences of the law so that they should not continue running away. So Gugu, you are my friend on this one. I'm happy to work with you. Now, the other issue on human trafficking. My sister did not tell us who her name is. She just started talking. So I'll call her Miss Human Trafficking. And then she read from a document, a well-written document, I must say, and she wants human trafficking to be stopped. Now, we've come up with a number of laws, as well as made a number of interventions on the issue of human trafficking. And we also embarked on something that may have made many of us unhappy with the visa requirements that required that there should be an unabridged certificate, birth certificate, whenever you are traveling with your children. Now, that was given rise to by the concern that was raised with us about child trafficking. We suddenly faced a barrage of, attacks on child trafficking. People were trafficking children through our country, and we needed to come up with an intervention that led to that visa problem. And I know that some of you would have been irritated by it in the way it was applied and all that, but we are looking at that once again. We've also got some number of laws on human trafficking. All I can tell you is that clearly we are against human trafficking. It's one of the areas of criminality that we want to curb, and we will indeed do everything that we can to curb it. Tumelo Maketa says, how is the youth of South Africa going to be unified? And what are we going to do to safeguard the future of the young people of our country? Tumelo, I can assure you that if there is any area that we are focusing more attention on, it is on securing a better future for the young people of our country. We're doing it in a variety of ways. Education enjoys the highest budgetary allocation in our country. We allocate more money on education than we do to many other departments. We are cognizant of the fact that we are dealing with a horrible past where we had apartheid education, where the apartheid rulers of this country decided that they were going to spend almost 5 or 6 times more money on a white child than on a black child. So we are reaping those consequences today. And our education system has had to deal with that legacy. And it's a horrible legacy, because you can imagine in the past where every white child, the government was spending, say, something like 13 rand on every white child. It was just spending maybe 3 or 4 rand on a black child. And that in itself created the inequality in education that we've got. And it also created the lack of skills that we've got in our economy. Admittedly, many white people in our country have got better education and better skills, and the majority of our people have not had that privilege, largely because of what was done in the past. So what we are seeking to do by laying out so many resources and embarking on so many programs and interventions is to secure and safeguard a future for young people. And we've recently also done it. I mean, when we got into power, Tumelo, as the ANC government, there were only 300,000 young people who were in institutions of higher learning. Today, we've got 1.2 million young people in institutions of higher learning. And that just shows that the hunger for education has been so high, but it was suppressed. Now that we are a free and open society, young people are coming to the fore. But where do they come from? Many of them come from poor families. Families that are single parent headed, families that rely on a grandmother's pension, and families that have nothing, that have no assets. The NDP, the National Development Plan, says what we should seek to do by 2030 is to make sure that the majority of South Africans have an asset base. They have an asset base, and we should also have a per capita GDP, which amounts to about 120,000 rand, which would be about $8,500 US. Whereas we are slightly, a little bit below that, no, quite below that, and we've been slipping backwards. Now, all that can happen if we focus more on education. And how have we done it? We've now rolled out billions of rands for bursaries for these young people who make up the 1.1 million who come from poor families. They are now being funded by the government. They are now getting free education. Did we need to do that? Of course we had to. We had to secure a better future for the young people of our country. And are many of them doing well? On a progressive basis, they are doing well and better as we begin to move out of the shadow of apartheid. This shadow of apartheid needs to keep on receding, and it's not going to recede immediately because it still casts a long shadow over the future of your cohort, Tumer. That shadow of apartheid is still present, it's cold, and it closes the vision. But we want to put more resources in education so that you can jump out of that shadow. And are many of you doing well? Yes, you are doing well. On a progressive basis, we can see that when young people in our country are given education, the wherewithal to gain education and to absorb new knowledge, they begin to thrive. And I can assure you that with time, we're going to see great things. But what else are we doing? Let me focus on this just for a minute. You also mentioned preschool. We've now decided to focus more on preschool. And for that reason, we are moving preschool out of social development. Like early childhood development was under social development, we're moving it now into basic education. That has been a real revolutionary development to make sure that as we educate these young souls from age 3 and so forth, they should now be working to a curriculum. They should be taught by teachers who are themselves trained, and basic education can deliver that. So on a progressive basis, we're going to move in that direction. I met teachers from Canada 3 years ago in Mexico, and they told me that in Canada, they are now teaching young people as early as 2 years old coding. And I was just flabbergasted. I said, coding? They said, yes. They are very clever, these young people, and they said, expose them to things like that. Now we are facing the world of the Internet of Things, fourth industrial revolution, digital world, and blockchain, and all these things. Now, Tumelo, that's where we want you to be. We want you to be key players in the fourth industrial revolution, because the fourth industrial revolution is here. And I would like to see the young people of our country being leaders in the fourth industrial revolution. You want a future? That is the future that this country wants to give you as young people. Erica talks about the yes surge forward. They just jump at all the opportunities. And I'm particularly pleased that you say they are also operating at the social economy level. That is where they are helping other young people. They are into schools. They are into a whole number of areas. And these are the young people who are going to inherit what world that we are crafting for them. And in fact, we are saying, no, we don't even want to craft it for them. We want them to craft it for themselves. And all we want is to be supportive and to be giving assistance to the young people of our country so that they prepare this great South Africa that we all want to see. Because after all, it is their South Africa, and we want them to work collectively. Now, the other beauty, and which is like almost the silent revolution that's taking place in our country, is that the young people that are living in our country today, the majority of them are completely devoid of our racial prejudices. They are embracing one another. They are working together. When they look at each other, they don't see race. They don't see a black person, a white person. They just see human beings. And they have found a way of being able to work together. And as parents, I would say, only if we can encourage this communion, this getting together of young people and working together and being able to do things all together. Now, we were prevented in our past from even having that type of communion with our compatriots. And now the young people of today are open to a new world. And let us help them embrace this new world and be the South Africans of the future, where all of them will feel that this is our home, but not only our home, but our only beloved home. That's what we should be doing for the young people in our country. Now, 14B, you didn't quite, I didn't catch your name, but you say you feel at home to be back here. I'm really delighted. I'm delighted that you've come back home and you feel home to be here. I would say, I'll take it forward and say, it should not only be for your relatives and family, it should just be for all the people of South Africa, because we are the best non-racial experiment that the world will ever have, where we forge unity, where we forge nationhood from our diversity. Look at how different we are in many, many ways. You know, during the Human Rights Day, I half bemoaned the fact that many white South Africans don't come to our national days. But I also did commend those white South Africans who were there. Very important day, Human Rights Day, living in a country where there was no human rights, where people were just killed willy-nilly. You just disappear, they go and burn you, and that's it. That's the end, where they would bash you to death in a jail, where they would lock you away. I mean, that's the type of country that we lived in. And on Human Rights Day, I had wanted, and I still want, and I'll keep talking about it. This is a time when all of us as South Africans must go to a national event and say, we are here as South Africans, we are defining ourselves as South Africans, and on a day when we celebrate human rights, which we never had, this is a great day for all of us. And we need to be embracing one another. Yes, we need to look back and what has happened in the back, like Sharpeville, where 69 people were mauled to death, some of them women shot from the back, and some of the horrible things that happened, and say, never and never and never again must this country, this beautiful country, ever have the violation of human rights as we had. So I want to see more South Africans, black and white, at our next Human Rights Day. But I'm glad that you're back, because this is the only country where we are involved in a unique human experiment. And this experiment is carried on for 25 years. And I think in the next 25 years, we will perfect it. By 50 years, we will be the most ideal nation in the world, where we live together, where we are, embrace one another, each other's cultures, and where, for instance, where there is a cultural display of one sort or another, we just look in wonderment and say, wow, how beautiful it is, where we also learn each other's languages. You read the preamble to the National Development Plan, which postulates a future that lies ahead for us, where we say, now we live in a South Africa that we have remade, a South Africa we have reshaped with our own capabilities, where we work together, where we talk, we speak each other's languages, where we're learning from each other's cultures, and the beauty of all that is put on displays with regard to our traditions, our cultures, and where we also celebrate one another and our own cultural origins and all that. So, but you also ask a difficult question. You say, your predecessor got rid of buddies, and you mention baddies rather, and you say who those baddies are. What are we going to do when the democratic process, for instance, in the ANC, throws up quite a number of other people who I think you would regard as baddies? And then you also say, the same thing is being experienced in the world. Look at what happened to America. In America, a Trump just emerged, and he was embraced. And in a number of other countries, by the way, is happening as well. There is a wave of governments and leaders who are emerging in the world who are going against the norms that we thought the world had embraced. For instance, all of us now believe that climate change is a real threat. And we are experiencing it here as well. Cape Town went through a 3-year drought and we almost ran out of water. In the northwest, there's a horrible drought that is underway there, and in a number of places in the Free State, and climate change. Cyclone Idai was also a demonstration of that. Thank God it did not really come towards us, because 1,000 people have died in those 3 countries, Malawi, Zimbabwe, and Mozambique. But then there are other leaders in the world who say climate change, what is that? It does not exist. And there are more of those types of leaders who are coming to the fore. So their democratic processes are yielding those types of leaders, those types of results. The key question is, how do they mediate? How do they lessen the expressions of democracy that yield those types of results that would go against what you would regard as the norm? Similarly, in my own party as well, the democratic process has yielded a particular result. And a number of names have come to the fore of being people who will go, yes, to Parliament. And as we said, that is now being handled through the Integrity Commission, which is going to look at that. And those people have said, well, I have not been charged. I really have not been charged of anything. I've not been found guilty. And the democratic process has said that I can be one of the delegates or one of the representatives to go and represent the African National Congress and therefore our people. And those are issues that we have to deal with. They are difficult issues. They are not easy issues, because they also impact on the image, on the integrity of the organization. But I can tell you that we will be able to deal with all those issues. Quite often people want quick solutions. They want immediate solutions. Even my dear brother, 14B, even the one that you said was dealt with, it took a long time. It took time, because you are dealing with human beings. You are not dealing with bottles of Coca-Cola or tins of fish or whatever. You are dealing with human beings, and you've got to find your own method and medium of dealing with that. All I can say is that the ANC is irrevocably committed to doing the right things. It's irrevocably committed to going back to its value system. We are committed to going back to the principles that were crafted by our forebears who founded the ANC in 1912, and who were also lived by people like Nelson Mandela, Albert Luthuli, Oliver Tambo, Mama Albertina Sisulu, and many others. We are committed to going back there. Will we have stops and starts? Yes, we will, because we are a living organism. We are not a machine. We are an organization that's made up of people. But I can say that our journey now is to move forward, to clean our reputation, to be an organization that will have great integrity and appeal to the voters of South Africa. That, I can assure you, is something that is going to happen. Watch this space, as I often say. Now, the other day, as I now go to conclusion, the other day, no, let me finish this first. Alex then says, FDI. FDI, what about FDI? We are attracting FDI. I was actually pleasantly amazed that in spite of having gone through all these challenges that we have had in the past, foreign investors have still found it good to invest in our economy. Our FDI went up much more than any other country on the continent, and also much more than we had in the past. So the investing world still finds us attractive. They still find us an attractive destination for investment. And I intend to make that a reality, not only for FDI, but also for local investors' interest in us. Because a number of companies have been sitting on a good sort of bags of money, not being so certain and not investing. And we are going out there and saying, loosen your hold on that money. Invest in our economy. Let's build jobs. And for those who are foreigners to say, look at South Africa as an attractive destination. You should have listened to a foreign investor whose a company or mine we went to open in the Northern Cape. And they said, you know, we find that South Africa is the best destination for foreign investment. You've opened up your economy, and you've also started ridding your country or your economy of all type of constraints, and we are prepared and willing to come and invest here. On xenophobia, I'd like to say that South Africans inherently are not xenophobic. We are not xenophobic, and quite of what people may want to see as xenophobic are manifestations that are given rise to by criminal activity. I give you a good example in KZN, where we had this flaring up of attacks on foreigners. That flared up after two men, one South African, one Malawian. They were friends, they had an argument, and then they had a fight, a fist fight. They started having a go at each other, and the other one floored the other one, and all of a sudden, he went off and recruited his friends. The Malawian floored the South African. He went off and recruited his friends and buddies, and they came to this area, enclave, and started attacking this other one's friends. And suddenly, it seemed to be an attack on foreign nationals, and it started gaining very ugly proportions. But the origin of it is not xenophobic. The origin of it is a squabble between two people that suddenly spiraled out of control. And we as a country could never be xenophobic, because when we were going through the apartheid nightmare, our people were driven into exile. Oliver Tambo, who was the president of the ANC for many, many years, was the one leading person who was driven into exile, and many others followed. And when they were in exile, they were looked after by a number of nations on the African continent as well as in Europe. So they made us feel at home, they welcomed us, they gave us refuge, they gave us assistance, and so therefore we could never be xenophobic, because our own ethos dictates against being xenophobic, because we see ourselves as Africans, being part of the African people as a whole. And we are part of Africa. We are Africans, and Africa is within us. So we can never be xenophobic against any person from other countries. In fact, we're the one country that has welcomed them. A number of people have come to our country. Why is that so? Because they see us as an oasis, as being one of the more successful countries on our continent. Even as I meet various heads of state, they say, South Africa, you have to bear this burden on your shoulder, because you are the largest economy in the subcontinent, and you are also the more successful one of all of us. You've got all the resources. So we know that our countrymen and women, when they face challenges in our own countries, they say they will come to you. And we say, that is a burden that we know we will have to bear on our shoulders. But at the same time, our Premier here is reeling under this burden, because on the health side, the Gauteng health budget, which is crafted by my sister here, Barbara Creasy, is heavily burdened by huge costs, and some of them are costs that are given rise to by people from outside the country. So we have this catch-22 situation as a nation and as a country, but at the same time we're seeking to find solutions, but we can never say we will not, we will embark on xenophobic attitudes and dispositions towards others. And in fact, I call on all South Africans not to be xenophobic and to embrace people from other nations, because they are here in the main, not because they just want to have a jolly ride in South Africa. They are going through a number of challenges, economic and security-wise, in their own country. And all we are also saying is that we would like them to be documented, because all of us as South Africans are documented. And that is why I was saying those young people who don't have IDs, we want them to have IDs. And everyone in South Africa should be documented, because being documented helps us from a statistical point of view. We now know from a budgetary point of view what we are dealing with. When Barbara Creasy crafts a budget for Gauteng, she will then know that I am dealing with this cohort of people. I know that we've got documented so many people, they may be from other countries. So that is the reason why we said we would like them to be documented, but xenophobic we are not, and we will never be xenophobic. Lastly, when it comes to crime, crime is a major, major, major challenge that faces our people. I've just been to Diepsloot today. We're doing a lot of door-to-door work there and had a very, very big meeting with the community. And we went into many houses. In nearly every house, the issue they raised was unemployment, crime, housing. Those were the key issues that they raised. We also went to Rabbie Ridge. Same thing was raised. We went to Ivory Park, near Midrand, exactly the same issue. And tonight, you are also raising the same issue. Now, we are very much alive to this. We are very much alive to it, and we are going to be addressing this. And in fact, we've started addressing it. And maybe we are doing it in various phases. For instance, the Western Cape has always been dogged with a lot of gangster criminal activity. We've set up a anti-gang unit, and it's working extremely well thus far. A number of gang leaders, gang bosses, and members are being arrested for the deeds that they have done. And we want to strengthen that. And we've also brought that unit into Gauteng, particularly into the areas where gangs proliferate. But at the same time, we need to be addressing crime all over. In KZN, many people were getting killed, left, right, and center. I went there with the Minister of Justice, Minister of Defense, Minister of Police, and I said, I want them to set up a unit that is going to investigate this. They've been investigating it, the murders, and many people have been arrested. Some have been sentenced to life imprisonment, long jail sentences. So it shows that where we focus on a particular area, we do reap some benefits. The Premier here in Gauteng has been working with the police, leading the charge on various raids. And in places where they've been raiding, they've been arresting people who have participated in criminal activity of one sort or another. But the police are coming up with a very good strategy that is now going to reduce criminality, of making sure that our cities are safe, our communities are safe, and that strategy will be fully unfolded as we move on. The one challenge that they've been having is the number of police that they have available. Population has grown to 57 million, but the police component has remained at the same level. We therefore need to increase the police, and I've said we must pull out all stops. If there's an area where we need to increase civil servants, that is in policing and health. And that is precisely what we are going to do. We are going to employ more police to make sure that we get rid of criminality in our country. Now, I want to conclude by saying we are a nation that is in renewal phase. We are being renewed. We embracing renewal. We are doing so by correcting the bad methods and practices that have happened in the past. And I'm also saying that this sense of renewal is gaining momentum. But for it to get a better grip, for it to get better traction, all of us as South Africans must work together, which brings me to the compact that I was charged to build. We must all forge a compact and see ourselves as people who can make a contribution to make this country function and succeed. As for the renewal process, the die has been cast. South Africa is going to be renewed. The things that happened in the past are going to be history. Even those who are saying they are waging a fight back, they will not succeed. It is not going to succeed. And we're going to make sure that they do not succeed, because by and large, the majority of South Africans are sick and tired of the wrong things that were done in the past. We don't want those wrong things, because the wrong things do not define us. As Madiba used to say, we are all good people inherently. Inherently, we are wonderful people. We're people who are embracing one another. That's the path that we must walk. We must never walk on the wrong side of the road and do wrong things. So that is why I say those people who are still committed to doing wrong things, they are going to be defeated. We are going to defeat them, because the truth and the good things that South Africans want to see are going to triumph, because we are irrevocably committed to this path. And I've told some people that it's almost like the die having been cast. And I use a wonderful imagery that I like. There was a journalist who sent me a message and said, "Oh, things are not happening. What is happening?" I said, "Don't worry." It was actually not a journalist, it was a friend of mine. I said, "Don't worry." Friend of mine, who is not a journalist. I said, "Don't worry." You know, Gerard Korenhoff and I share a wonderful process. We read all old books, and we also read Alistair MacLean's books. And one of the books that we've shared is, and I love war stories, is the one which is Force 10 from Navarone, where this team of macho men are sent to go and destroy a dam and a bridge so that the German soldiers don't go across and go and annihilate a village. So they are sent to do that. So the bomb expert, David Niven, who plays that part, for some of you may have seen it, goes into the belly of this dam, which has the bridge, and the Germans are approaching. He goes there, he connects a few fuses, he lights them, and the explosion just goes poof. And Gregory Peck, who's there, he says, "Is that it?" He says, "Yes, that's it." He says, "This is never going to work. The Germans are going to come." He says, "Don't worry, wait. It is going to work." And he said, "The fuse has been lit. It is irrevocable. It is going to work itself into this dam. And this dam is going to explode. And the Germans are not going to be able to come." And that is exactly what I say. South Africans are impatient. We want to see everything having happened yesterday. And I'm saying the fuse has been lit. We are going to go back to the good ways of behavior, of doing things that we've always wanted to see. And all I say is, let us be patient, because we've seen how horrible the past was. The commissions, as you were correctly asking, have been, sort of taking everything out, throwing it out into the open. But at the same time, we are now committed to ridding our country of all the bad things, corruption, and everything that has gone wrong in our country. We are going to put it right. Let's have confidence in that, because the fuse has been lit. It's irrevocable.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I'm now going to call Gerard Korenhoff to do the vote of thanks.
Thank you so much. I will be short and to the point. It's 13 minutes past 9. I think you will all agree if I first thank the President. Mr. President, you are an inspirational leader and President. You are leading this renewal. The President has achieved miracles in the last 14 months in South Africa, despite all the challenges. Just imagine what this President can do in the next 5 years if he's elected. Mr. President, we will climb the steep hills with you. You will eventually, together with us, we will enjoy the beautiful view from the top of the mountain. We will get there under your leadership. Anybody, every one of you who has listened tonight to the President, I think has no option but to support the President and vote ANC on the 8th of May. And if you don't do it, after tonight, you will seriously consider to do that. So thank you, Mr. President. We are proud of you. Secondly, the Premier, David Makura, thank you for your opening remarks. We really appreciate this event. Barbara Creasy, the program director, a job well done. Thank you so much. She was very strict, but you enjoyed it, and I think she did a wonderful job. Thank you so much. Then for the hosts of the evening, the Valley family and the Toyo Investment, thank you for offering us this venue. We enjoyed it. Lastly, the organizers of this event, Comrade Sipu Mbele and his team, thank you for working together. Comrade Greg Schneemann and the members of the Provincial National Group Task Team, thank you for the team effort you put in to make this event a success. We have formed this Provincial National Groups Task Team. We refuse to be called minorities. We are national groups. And we are 6 national groups in the province, including the Chinese community, the Jewish community, the white, the colored, the Indian, and we're working together to strengthen the hand of President Cyril Ramaphosa. And then to the media, thank you for the media, thank you for covering this event, we really appreciate that. And then lastly, to you as the audience, thank you for your presence and your attending this conversation with the President. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you get something out of it and really spread the word of what you heard of the President of the Republic of South Africa. En dan, laastens, onthou om 'n oorweldigende mandaat vir die President Cyril Ramaphosa te gee as jy vir die ANC gaan stem op die 8de Mei. Veilig ry, goeienag.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to make one final request of you. Before you move from your seats, can we allow the party to leave the podium? Gentlemen? Okay. And once more, thank you very much. I failed you horribly. It's 9:20. Drive safely. Have a wonderful evening.